Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video, ALBT AllianceBlock. Many have been waiting for this momentous occasion for me to do a video on this. It's a project that I have not held before until my first accumulation last night. I've been doing a lot of research on this project, for some time really, to be honest. I've been aware of AllianceBlock for a couple of years and went through my portfolio with variations of different assets, different classes of technology, etc. And to be honest, there's no major reason why I have or have not had AllianceBlock in my portfolio before. But there is an interesting, unique point that I want to go through. First of all, before we do that, do also check out our other videos after this one all across the channel, a multitude of different topics and discussions. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please do not forget to smash that subscribe button and hit that bell button as well if you want notifications of anything coming your way from all the updates on the channel here. But yeah, AllianceBlock, guys, we'll talk about this in a bit more detail. So yeah, as I said, I've got a multitude of different projects in my portfolio, and I want to make this point. In the bear markets, yeah, most of us are at a loss. Some assets I have pulled out of and moved across to what I believe are going to be pretty much the extraordinaires, if you like, of the financial industry for the years to come. And I'm being a lot more strategic and more maybe sensible with the focus of the projects and technologies that I'm investing in moving forward. I don't want to add too many more to my portfolio. I had 42 assets. I've now trimmed that down to around 25, 27, I think. I would like that to come down a bit lower just for management perspectives. But the point being is that I've now freed up a bit more utility in my time and management of investing and the management of research and things like this, to identify some new areas that I've always wanted to get into, but perhaps whether it's capital related or just already have the portfolio bags as they are, I don't really want to add too many or spread the money too thin, as it were. So right now I'm in a capacity to identify these kind of projects. Now, as I said, AllianceBlock is not new. You guys out there probably been holding this for some time, but it is new to me in terms of being added to my portfolio. I find this project very interesting. I do liaise this with a lot of the other projects that I hold who are in good, welcoming hands, to be honest, with AllianceBlock. We'll go on to that in a second. The likes of Quant, for example, Energy Web, some of my favorite projects and technologies. We'll go on to those points more soon. But this is kind of like on that level. And perhaps even building infrastructures of things for other projects that we utilize but never knew that came from AllianceBlock's services. So AllianceBlock very much are trying or are bridging this kind of DeFi concept that we have with the utilization of blockchain, other elements which we'll touch on in a second, to the central finance system, the traditional systems. Okay, it doesn't have to be finance, banking related. It can also be interoperable with things like small business enterprises or small medium enterprises, and perhaps slightly larger scaled companies out there as well. Okay, so they're trying to bridge this. And that even includes TradeFi, to be honest. We've done a lot of trade related videos, especially with the likes of Quant and XTC in particular, with the Trada token potentially coming, along with all the other things that they're doing there. And these all relate really, to be honest, because they're all part of the kind of similar ecosystem, right? So that what they're trying to do is combine these together, bridge them, for a better word, to create the future of finance. Of course, when we take the DeFi principles of the technology, the application of blockchain and messaging, particularly in finance, and all the other great things that come with blockchain. We cover this many times in all our videos. We apply this to also the ability of cross-border aspects. This is very interesting because obviously each country, each continent, whatever it may be, has its own different legislations, rules, regulations and things like this. So this has to be something that's thought of ahead of time and implemented in the right way. So this is when we come onto the partnerships, it makes a lot more sense for the ecosystem. But for me, this is a really top level project. I'm kind of disappointed myself to an extent of not holding it before, but actually kind of, in a strange way, when we get into the chart, will show you actually why it may have been a good idea for me not to have added when I was going to add it at the time. So we're pulling this all together, the future of finance. We're taking the great things of the centralized finance or existing traditional systems. We're taking the great things, or, well, some remain to be decided whether they're good or bad, and bringing those DeFi applications to them as well, combining it together, creating hence the mentality and the methodology behind AllianceBlock is creating that future of finance. Big topical words here. So we've got these aspects to think about and consider. There's loads of really big things here. I'm not going to go through every single one. I think most of them are self-explanatory, or we've discussed these kind of points or familiarizations of these points in many different videos. But what we need to understand, this trade capital goes, we're talking about trillions of dollars of opportunity here. We've also got things like the traditional banking, the traditional finance systems, which are, well, trillions of dollars in themselves, of course, right? But we now have a huge market, a huge technological advancement and opportunity with blockchain. And this is taking AllianceBlock, as we said, bridging all these together. So legal and compliance is a very interesting arm and branch to this. I've talked about before, I know many companies in London, I know quite a lot of CEOs and founders of companies that are utilizing things like smart contract technology for their aspects of contracts, to remove the administrative aspects, implementing some areas of things like KYC to the point, or in fact, in this case, to be honest, for them, KYB, know your business. This is more about an institutional level of smart contracts rather than know your customer, like you and I trying to apply for identification, verification, all this kind of stuff. It's more about, as you can imagine, at these top levels, there's a lot more intricate detail going into this because a lot more money flowing in and out, right? So this is really an important point to bring across and be utilized in the real world. TradeFi, there's a lot of things here. As we've mentioned about banks in general, investment banks, asset banks, we've got to think about wealth management here, guys. Wealth management is a huge area. There's a load of great projects out there, even things like Fireblocks, for example, that do this very well, and amongst other services, of course. But this is brilliant because we now have an integration possibility where we can use those traditional methods, but also DeFi projects or companies around this area like Fireblocks, like other projects doing this to pull these together as well. And yeah, kind of like going through many of these other ones are very similar and ones that you would expect to be listed in that. And then we've got DeFi in general. So all these things that we can pull across, NFT markets, we must remember it's not just about artwork and things like this. With NFT application can be pretty much any property or product or physical area that can be dragged across, right, to anyone. You can buy in a physical format or digital format. NFTs are something that's outside a 1-to-1 ratio. It could be a car, it could be a house, pretty much anything. So we've got to understand that application can be brought across from a minting perspective, from a creation, the smart contract, the aspect in itself that is verified and digitally owned and digitally certified, all these great things that come from blockchain. And there's loads of other things as well here, particularly about stablecoins, very interesting. P2P lending, so peer-to-peer lending is very much a big topic at the moment and something that's definitely going to be driving and growing over the next few years. Data oracles, we could argue things like Chainlink, again, one of the partners actually that we'll talk about in a second, and a load of other areas here as well. Of course, data oracles, we do pull in some areas of things like quant also. Very interesting to see those developments in partnerships continuing. The DEX is something that AllianceBlock have actually brought out quite recently, utilizing this through a couple of different chains actually, but certainly one of the ones that interested me the most was Energy Web Foundation's chain, then operating a liquidity pool utilizing those systems, wrapped ALBT and utilizing the EWT token. We'll go into that in a second as well because I've got a bit of a thing to show you on that. But in general, you can see a big story developing here, a big opportunity and thought process as to why this is quite important. They've thought about everything. But what's really important to me is as well the partnerships. It's all very well on most websites. There are so many projects out there that have this wonderful terminologies and great visuals, loads of interesting keywords that you go, oh, grabbing words, brilliant, fantastic. But what's the integration? What's the utility? And here, for example, you'll see some big names here. We know most of these in the space, right? But if you're new, you need to understand the application of some of these. I mean, we cover most of these on different videos anyway. I'm a big holder of Elrond, especially Hedera. We've got likes of Polygon in here, Flare, of course, a huge networking opportunity. We've got DAO Maker, which is doing very well still in the markets, to be honest. Quant, Chainlink, and a few others that you're going to recognize. Energy Web, of course, one of our favorites here at the Whales of Wall Street. But what I love about this site is you can click on each one and it tells you about each of the partnerships. Very interesting indeed. In fact, for example, you can actually click on some of these blogs and it pulls out the information about this. Now, the partnership between Quant and AllianceBlock has been going back since 2018, so good for nearly 5 years already. But again, utilizing Quant's overledger solutions, right, towards the SME aspect of the business of AllianceBlock. So you can start seeing already a little map perspective in your head as to how all these guys are working together, right? There is a major limitation on current blockchain technology, and Overledger provides a unique solution by making interoperability between different blockchains very easy and straightforward. We know this, we cover Quant a lot, okay? But when we talked about the things that AllianceBlock also have in their disposal of solutions, we can then start saying, okay, well, Quant has the ability to have this interoperable aspect. AllianceBlock can then leverage that. And I'm sure Quant will use some of AllianceBlock's solutions, or indeed promote them to their partners as well. So there's already a really big partnership and web building here already, just from those two names. The implementation into big banks, like for example, one here in the UK, NatWest. I think NatWest is perhaps global as well, but certainly here in the UK, it's a big bank. Energy Web, which I mentioned earlier, which is very interesting. Now, one thing I didn't know, Elrond, this is always about learning. So I do a lot of liquidity pools with Elrond eGold, EGLD. They've just recently revamped their name and everything. That's another topic for sure. But what was also interesting is the application of the DEX, but also liquidity mining solutions on Elrond. So I need to triple check that. But as I'm reading this and understand this from the blogs and everything, is that actually the liquidity mining pools were created by and infrastructured by AllianceBlock. I think this is very interesting. So from a user perspective, personally, I'm already being affected by AllianceBlock, whether I like it or not. I think it's really interesting when you start thinking about the bigger web of everything. Hedera Hashgraph, of course, huge, but this is one of my favorite projects. But again, about interoperability, of course, Hedera has a very big advantage, like it does with iota and a couple of others, with the DAG aspect, direct acyclic graph. This is the evolution of blockchain. So we're talking about governance and validations here. We're talking about the speed of transactions, the interoperable aspect of assets and devices, and everything working harmoniously and simultaneously being pulled in with that. So here, Hedera Token Service will be integrated into AllianceBlock's Trustees KYC product. Very interesting indeed. Confidence in the DeFi opportunities amongst institutional players. We're already seeing some huge links here. I'm not going into every single one because everything has got a great story and it would take me about 10 minutes per one to really speak about them. But there's a few I picked out. Certainly, I wanted to pick out ones that I'm not just invested in, but I understand from a technological perspective and bring that to life a bit more to make you realize that actually you might be utilizing these tokens, or you might have your own liquidity pools or staking, whatever it might be, and you might already be utilizing services through or via AllianceBlock in the first place. This is how big they are. This is how big the network is ahead of this. It's very interesting indeed. There's a bit of information here about ISO 222. There's no official documentation that I can see yet saying that they are compliant with this. But let's be honest, like I said with the Quant video a couple of days ago, they're not stupid. To be in this space and to be in the financial and the trade finance side of things, you're going to have to apply to this anyway. ISO 222, as we identified in the last video as well, this has actually been a standardization that's been operating or being worked upon since the late 90s. The early noughties. Absolutely crazy. But we're seeing the integration now, the process as regulation kicks in and the movement towards this new digital era of finance and everything else we're doing application-wise via blockchain, etc. So it's very important to understand that this will be a big part of this also. So we've got all these areas here. I wanted to pinpoint this point. The big target there is SMEs. Of course, 90% of businesses around the world are contributed via SMEs. This is a huge market, and it's not just them they're going for the institutional levels as well, of course. But when you're trying to really hit home on 90% of business out there already, it's huge. Unmet financing needs of $5.2 trillion every year. This is the market. This is the areas that they can identify and really target ahead of time. And it's not just here in the UK, it's global. The Latin American market is huge. Humongous. Of course, Asia and everyone is big as well, but LATM, I think I said that right, LATAM, I think is absolutely gigantic. We cover that quite a lot, especially a lot of projects are focusing on these areas right now as well. But we mentioned here about liquidity mining, one of the big services. Again, I'm very interested in this. Liquidity mining and pools are very important to keep the momentum, to keep the infrastructure in place via us, the users, to keep a lot of the projects running, to keep the ability for people to, if there's any kind of risk assessment that goes down south, there is liquidity there to help each other. Look at what's happened with all the exchanges recently. The markets or the exchanges didn't have the liquidity to support withdrawals or anything like this. What happens? Everyone gets their money stuck, and it's no good for business. It's no good for the world to move forward, right? Imagine now on a larger scale. Imagine if the banks ran out of money. I mean, don't get me started on that conversation with printing money and thin air and all this malarkey. The fact of the matter is, this is a new space, and all eyes are on it. And any small discrepancy will be blown up 1 million times. So having these kind of mechanisms in place and technologies and solutions is really important to keep the justification of why we should be moving more towards DeFi and blockchain technology and integrating this more and more into our existing business systems. Very important to understand that. So there's a few interesting topics there. As I mentioned about the DEX, this is a building block, guys. It's very new. I've been opening up this platform here via ABDEX or ABDEX, obviously. I'm going to trial some EWT, obviously more than 0.36. That's all I got left in MetaMask since the rest of it's staking at the moment. But I'm going to trial this and see what we get, see what kind of rewards we're doing. I need to get some more information and research on how to wrap the ALBT token to put it onto here as well. I'll look out for that video very soon. I will be trying to do that in the next week or so. I'm very intrigued to see this development, and I'm also very intrigued to see more utilization of Energy Web Foundation's chain as well. There's a few others they use. I think it's Polygon, but it's restricted to a certain couple of countries, of course. But let's see how this plays out, because I'm really interested to see how they adopt this, how they progress. It's a good time for them to do it. As we're in a bear market, we're transitioning into bull markets in the near future. The hype of that growth, the influx of new people, the influx of business being utilized via AllianceBlocks and other projects within its partnership ecosystem is going to be a very exciting time, that's for sure. But for now, we just have to see these building blocks. I'm sure many of you have been following and utilizing ALBT for some time. But yeah, for me, this is really exciting. And on that point, actually, we'll just talk quickly about market cap. So we can see here, guys, the coin market cap we've got on the page here. We've got the market cap here at 11 million. So this is very low compared to what we would perceive it to be in the future if it delivers. Well, I know it is continuously trying to deliver what it's promising and showing on the website. But what I mean is, in time, certainly over the next few years, especially into the next bull run when that eventually happens, but the actual technological advancements over the next 5-10 years are really going to signify this getting a lot higher. The fully diluted market cap here is 50 million. I truly believe that this could be easily one of the $1 billion tokens that has a market cap of $1 billion, by that kind of time in the next 5-10 years. I don't know what you guys think about that. Let us know in the comments below. Obviously, the volumes are still relatively high, not as significant as they possibly could be that you would see in bigger markets, but that's pretty understandable, to be honest, right? When we think about where we are with the market conditions, the world macro events, and all these things. So for me, there is a huge opportunity of growth to come for this token for sure. Even some comments here on the right side, you can see a lot of people saying about potential and rising and everything like this. I don't know the backgrounds of some of these people, but there's obviously some really good bullish momentum in people's minds, irrespective of the fact that we're so low. And actually, when you look at it in this longer range point of view, you can see there's huge opportunity and movement for growth. And we'll go into that in a bit more detail in the actual charts in a second, but I just wanted to reiterate these kind of points. People always ask where you can buy them. For me personally, I'm using KuCoin a lot more than the other exchanges, to be honest. I don't really use Uniswap and I don't have a Bitfinex account, so I can't really comment on those ones, but KuCoin is relatively a good one, and I tend to move those across to other wallets, whether it be MetaMask or Ledger, as and when I can as well. These are showing clearly that there are some good exchanges here that hold the ALBT token. And again, there's this new thing on CoinMarketCap where we can see that exchange reserves data are available. There's not one here yet for Uniswap, I don't think, but I think that's slightly different protocol and exchange, to be honest. But that's always good to know and see. But yeah, I do think this is going to be interesting. We have the CoinMarketCap's or market cap ranking here, which is very interesting actually to see it still relatively quite low on the system here. We've got a projection here of 669 ranking, so there's a lot of improvement to go in terms of ranking, but that doesn't always mean that anything outside the top 50 isn't going to make it. It's just basically made on market cap. Whether that's a right or wrong way to rank things is another topic and another question. There's a lot of people that hold this on the watch list. I could expect that to be a bit higher as well. But I think this is quite a generic thing, really, to be honest. With a lot of the finance tokens, there's obviously so much commotion around NFT, gaming, and metaverse things last year. I feel like there's a bit of a distraction against what we're going to perceive in a huge market of finance in general over the next course of the next few years, 5 years, 10 years, and beyond, right? So I think more and more people are becoming aware of these kind of projects. We talked about like Quant, Hedera, for example, Algorand that we hold and cover on this channel too, things like iota, to name a few. And I think AllianceBlock, as I said right at the beginning of this video, I haven't held this before up until last night. No particular reason other than, as I said, my portfolio being quite big already, but I'm revitalizing my portfolio. I'm being more focused on institutional level opportunities, and I think this is one of them. Personally, I do believe this. I do love the aspect of bridging, the DeFi and the CeFi aspects, and there are more and more companies that are really looking over their shoulders to what DeFi can offer. And I think you're going to see a lot more transitions, a lot more big companies involving this. I mean, look at all the big companies out there anyway in general. They've probably got integration with blockchain one way or another anyway. We know like Accenture, Microsoft, etc. are using like the Hyperledger format or Hyperledger Fabric implementation, as are IBM. So don't think for 1 second that these big companies like Google and everything aren't using blockchain already or in some format of infrastructure or framework of it already, because they are, for sure. And they're hiring left, right, and center in these areas too as well. So just keep an eye on this. But for the finance sector, I think this is very interesting. Keep this in mind as we see visually. I'm just going to switch over to the chart right now because I want to just pinpoint very quickly where we are. So you just seen that chart recently. Unfortunately, with TradeView, there's some limitations on history. This only goes back to June 2021, but I was going to make this clear that that kind of starts at the operation around this area where you see the arrow in the circle. Okay, so that's where we are starting these points here. So I'm just going to remove these out of the way so we can have a bit more clarity on where we are with ALBT. I'll just move those lines. So what you can see here is from the current point as of now, if we were to get back to those highs that we saw back here in September 2021, we're looking at a 3,800% increase. This is phenomenal gains, everyone out there. Now, that's to also indicate that this is the minimal that it could get to. There's going to be a big cycle, guys. This isn't just going to flip around all of a sudden. First of all, these will be very big barriers of resistance when we get to these levels. But if we're in a hype market, these could go out significantly higher. And we could potentially see ourselves protrude easily beyond that $2 mark and potentially that $3 mark as well in the next cycle. I'm talking about the big cycle, not those small silly ones that we get here and there right now. I'm talking about like maybe by 2025 we'll hopefully have the integration of a new big bull cycle. But if I just unzoom this bit, you see what some of the top levels potentially, based on the algorithm of the top and low here, there could potentially be a minimum of a $5 return on our investment. And if that was to happen from these current points, we're looking at some significant gains way beyond what we just mentioned here, about 3,800 just to the existing point. We're talking about 16,000 intake. We'll have to see if that happens. Let us know in the comments below what you think about that. But I do generally believe that we should be anticipating at least well over that $3 mark in the next bull cycle. So this is what I'm quite excited about. I've seen what AllianceBlock is capable of doing. What it's about is partnerships and everything like this. I'm concluded in my head this is going to be a top project moving forward. We've seen where it can get to in a mini bear market that we had last year, right? A big hype market based on metaverse and everything else that came out. And then it obviously tanked down after December like every other project did, right? The upscale. There's huge gain opportunities here. What I'm going to do, guys, is not focus too much on the intricate detail of buying movements right now, because I want to keep this video fairly generic because of like future people watching this. But if you want more regular videos on ALBT, especially now I'm a holder, I have a lot more influx into this. I'm trying to see if I can get an interview with the team as well, the CTO there. I think his name's Matthias. I can't really pronounce the name. It's from the Netherlands, I believe. Hopefully that was correct. So we'll see if we can get that. But in the next video that we do on ALBT, I would be very interested to see the differentiation of price points that we could buy at. For example, right now it's floating around this sort of 5-cent mark. There have been lower regions back here in September where we've seen a low of 3.7 cents. So there's opportunity for some lower areas still as well. I do generally think that there's an interesting awareness being building upon ALBT, and I do think a lot of people have a bit more of the psychology that I do now as well, in the sense that we're revamping our portfolios or thinking a bit differently perhaps to what we were before. We've got time, a bit of time on our hands to restructure everything and think ahead as to what is actually going to win these next runs and the future of things like the finance industry. That's the kind of topic that I wanted to make the point on. Use these as reference for future times of viewing this video as well. Currently 90% down on the year, again indicating the big impact of opportunity we have on the way forward to come. The weekly is showing 21%. That's kind of irrelevant if you're watching this in a few months time, etc. But the 3 months and the 6 months aren't too bad. The 3 months obviously showing a very good positive here. The 6 months is still a negative, but it is coming down slowly. Very interesting indeed to watch this. There's a bit of a buying pattern here as well. So my point about that right now is just to be cautious of that. As we are in a kind of like a buying momentum as of this moment in time. Currently sitting at 54 on the 14-day and 49 on the 28-day. It's very much middle ground. So I will be personally waiting a bit longer, personally, to be buying a bigger chunk of ALBT. I bought a small intricate amount last night to get it in the bag and also have it as a bit of a benchmarker. Let's see how it plays out. But we'll do, as I said, future videos if you want them on more analysis of the charts of ALBT and just general topic and conversation like we do with all the other projects on the channel. So guys, that's going to wrap this one up there. I'm really interested in this project. It's the second one now that's been kind of added to my portfolio recently, not necessarily always based on recommendations to me or things that I know of and I just haven't had the time to add or do work or research on. Casper was the other one as well. I'm sure there's a couple more to add. If there's any that you think we should be covering on this channel, let us know in the comments below. I'm very interested to read more about them. Even if I don't hold them, I'll still do videos for them for you guys. That's what this is about, building a community, building what you guys want to hear and see and know. Thanks for watching this one, guys. I'm looking forward to the next ALBT update. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.